Thanks a lot for coming along today. My name's Robert Kilpatrick. I'm Projects and Operations Manager at the Scottish Music Industry Association, and we're delighted to be a partner of Wide Days this year. So today we're going to be talking about preparing for the Great Escape and how to make the most of it whilst you're there. To give you a bit of background, whilst I was still at uni, so in 2014 I volunteered at the Great Escape as a venue rep assistant, and the following 2 years I worked for the festival as a venue rep at the Hope and Ruin, which is a 100 capacity venue. The Great Escape this year taking place next month, the 18th to 20th of May. Showcase in Scotland at the Great Escape. This year we'll see 2 showcases supported by Creative Scotland, featuring acts including B Charlotte, M Woods, Teen Canteen and the LaFontaines. There's also this year going to be a Scottish networking reception, which is run in partnership with Creative Scotland and Born to be Wide, which will mean that there's more opportunity than ever for Scottish musicians and music businesses to connect to the international industry. So our 2 panellists are Adam Ryan and Jamie Webster. Do you fancy just introducing yourselves and saying a bit about...
Hello, I'm Adam Ryan. I work on The Great Escape. I programme the artists.
Hi, I'm Jamie Webster. I work my own company called Instinctive Raccoon and also work for Walls Productions as artist management.
Great. Adam, you've got a presentation.
It's not a presentation, don't build it up. It's more of a prompt, so I don't forget what I'm talking about. This is The Great Escape. It's a 3-day music conference and festival that happens in Brighton. It's more just a quick run through of what the festival is if nobody's aware of it, really. There's something that the Times said, and that's Mo. There's some better bits here. So there we go. The past 4 years, we've attracted 17,000 festival goers. We have about 3,500 music industry delegates. That's kind of made up from agents, managers, syncs, artists. I mean, it's quite a lot of the music industry is represented there, and internationally as well. We work with a lot of people from overseas and a lot of artists and trade bodies. These are some of the success stories over the years. So, Maccabee's Mystery Jets in 2006. Adele's in there. Warpaint, Everything. John Hopkins, Jungle. And then obviously Rag and Bone Man's played 3 years. But obviously he's headlining the festival this year. But you can see it's kind of a wide breadth of artist. And these are some of our trade partners and media partners that we work with. We try and create, I think the thing with The Great Escape is we try and create credible platforms to showcase new music, and part of that is working with, radio partners or The Guardian or The Quietus or Vivo or music publications, just so the artists kind of immediately have some media or some traction straight after the event. So it's almost like an immediate leg up. So it's almost like a guaranteed write-up, or in Vivo's case, it's the show's filmed and then pushed out via their channels. And we also work with partners like the Royal Albert Hall to help promote the artists that kind of fit in with their programming via their sort of databases and websites and stuff. And then people like PS and agencies like ITB, Coda, they have their own showcases as well. There's a band. Alongside the live music, we have a convention. So we have talks and discussions and panels to help emerging bands and emerging managers or established artists and managers. And obviously, off the back of all the meetings that are done and stuff, there's a lot of money that's made that we actually don't get any of. But at least we're helping the music industry, which is good. So this is just delegate reception, speed meetings, information. The delegate pass, so we have the festival pass, which just gets you into all the venues as a punter, and then we have a delegate pass. Delegate passes are about £200, but that seems quite steep, but for the 3 days, you can actually eat and drink for free if you go to all of the receptions and all the panels and meetings. And then obviously we touched on the amount of money that people do and the amount of business that's generated at the festival as well, so it's definitely worthwhile buying one. And there's the split there, so it's 3,500 delegates. It's about 43 nationalities represented in that, and there's the gender split of delegates, which is quite interesting. It's less men than you would have thought, which is fantastic. And then the artists and the nationalities here. How many shows? So we try and keep it about 450 artists over the 3 days. And we try and give as many of those artists 2 shows where possible. So in total, it's normally around 600 shows over the weekend. So it's quite a lot of music happening. And we do that across 35 venues, 65 stage partners, and there's some numbers. That's the band. Each year we have a lead country partner. This year we're working with Switzerland. And we do this because it just helps give the trade partners and the export offices and the people that maybe don't have a strong sort of export office. Kind of gives them a spotlight to showcase the artists. So we'll do special meetings and stuff with them. And these are some of the artists that we have performing this year. So there's everybody from like grime artists like 6, 7 and Abracadabra, some like Afrobeat with Belly Squad, Cabbage. The lineup over the past 5 years has got more and more diverse, but the number of artists has always kind of stayed at 450, and we've done that just so all of the artists kind of get cut through. I think some other events maybe grow too big too quickly, and then it becomes quite difficult for artists to sort of get the recognition or the business that they need. And that is it.
It's great. So, following on from that, how would you go about selecting the acts that showcase, and how many people are on the booking team?
It's just me on the booking team. So, But we work with a lot of people. The reason that The Great Escape is good and successful is because we work with a number of people, from agents to managers to labels, A&Rs, local promoters in regional venues to promoters in London, or national promoters or export offices from around the world. So there's a lot of eyes and ears to the ground. It's definitely not me just sitting with an internet connection and a telephone. There's a lot of people sort of behind the scenes supporting me. That's kind of how it's cut up. And
what do you look for in an act?
I think the live show has to be at a certain point, and we have to make sure that the artists are kind of at a point where they're ready to showcase. And there's a sort of saying like export ready, I guess. I mean, it's whether you're able to sort of perform outside of your city or town or wherever you are. So just kind of make sure that the live show's up to scratch and at a point, and that there's obviously songs and stuff going on in the home territory. We'll also make sure that there's a bit of a team around you, but that doesn't have to be a manager, or it doesn't have to be an agent or anything as sort of fancy as that. It could just be, somebody that's a radio plugger or even just an additional member to the band, really. And that's kind of important, because if you do get selected to play The Great Escape, we kind of encourage the band just to focus on performing at The Great Escape. You're only going to get 2 shows, and that's like half an hour, and we really just want the band to focus on those shows and make sure that they're the best that they can be. So that additional member would then help arrange meetings or network with other industry delegates to make sure that the band aren't having to worry about the sort of business side of things, really. So that's kind of key. I don't think we'd ever really book a band that wasn't at that level where they've got somebody working with them. But that person could be anybody, could be their mum.
Yeah. So in terms of Scottish acts, how important are things like Wide Days or the Scottish Album of the Year Award, the Scottish Alternative Music Awards for signposting you to the talent that you potentially want to book?
Yeah, they're really important. Yeah, that's kind of what I mean about when they're ready to be exported. If they're playing sort of showcase events in their home territory, if an artist is playing a showcase event in their home territory, then that's kind of a good indicator. There's lots of indicators that I look for, and that would be one of them. Yeah.
Cool. And what does a showcase night get? What are the main benefits of showcasing that at the Great Escape?
I don't know. I've never showcased at the Great Escape. Do you want to answer that? You've brought bands to the Great Escape.
Yes. Well, I think one of the main benefits is people from all around the world are going to Great Escape for the festival. So you've got an opportunity there to get people from America, from Canada, from Germany to come to your show. Obviously, that's a big part of the networking, and you've got to set that up in advance. But I guess that's one of the main benefits. And it puts you in the public eye, even just by doing the Scottish showcase. It raises your profile at home also.
Yep, definitely. Cool. So I thought the way we'd split this up is kind of split it into sections. So what you do to prepare, what you can do whilst there, and then after the event as well in terms of making the most of it. So in terms of preparation, what should people have ready ahead of the event?
This is if they've been confirmed and they're on the bill. Well, before that, I would suggest coming down to the Great Escape as just a member of the public or as a delegate, and getting an understanding of how the festival works, where people hang out, where the meeting spaces are, before you kind of bring the whole band down and kind of invest financially. I think that would be beneficial. And then when you're offered a slot at the Great Escape, you can say, well, no, I don't like that venue, or this is a better venue for, or do you know what I mean? You can, totally. And then when you're at the event, you know where certain members of the music industry hang out and where the meetings take place, and it kind of just gives you a little bit more of a head start. So that would be the first thing that I would do. Anybody that hasn't been, that wants to play, I would just attend as a non-performer. But then when you're there, I guess one of the things that you should do is arrange meetings with people, yeah.
Yeah, so once you've been selected before you go, how important is it, like, so for example, taking things like USBs down with you, having your like website, social media up to date? Do you think all this stuff is, of key kind of importance to make sure that whilst you're there, when people are checking you out?
It's definitely important to have your social media up to date, yeah. Taking USBs, yeah, I mean, could be. I don't know. I mean, whenever I'm given something at an event, like, if I had something, yeah, I guess it would be important, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's best to have these things with you, whether it's CDs or USBs or, certainly business cards, do you know what I mean? Totally. Some people might not always be able to take them if you bump into them at a gig. Yeah. They might not want a CD, but I think it's good to have them, because some people will take them and will use them. But one thing I would say in advance is the website, the Great Escape website is really helpful, particularly with the list of delegates. So if you're going down there and you want an agent, you'll be able to find the agents that are going, reach out to them in advance. That's a great resource for people who haven't been before. You've got to look at that.
Totally. And is it right that the showcase acts can actually say what they're looking for when they're down as well?
Yeah, we ask everybody that's confirmed to sort of fill out a form that just says if they're looking for a publisher or an agent or a manager, and then that's then in turn used by people in the industry. So if they're an agent and they want to see who hasn't got an agent, that can all be filtered out, and vice versa. So yeah, but it's definitely important to look at that and use it as a tool and a resource, because I mean, you can arrange a lot of meetings beforehand and reach out to people. So yeah, totally.
So Jamie, considering you've taken acts down, what tips do you have for artists showcasing at the Great Escape?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, it's important to try and manage expectations as well for the artist, because I work with artists from very embryotic stage to more developed acts, and everybody wants to play Great Escape, everybody wants to play South by Southwest, so it's a case of going when the time's right. So you need to you need to have things going on. You can't expect to go to Great Escape and for that to open all the doors you want to open. So you need to have momentum before you go. So whether you've got a release out or a release in the process, or whether you've got an agent, you've already been to London, you've got things going on. So I think it's important to have lots of other parts working for you before you go. You're talking to people in other territories and meeting them when you're there.
Yeah, cool. And what about this year, Adam? Is there any new things that people should be aware of to think about preparing for going down?
We've got some exciting shows. Yeah, we've got some. We're taking over parts of Brighton that we've never taken over before, and doing a big show on the pier with Slaves. And there's, there's a lot. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot more networking, a lot more delegate areas and stuff this year. So that's always good to keep an eye out and look out for. All that information can be found in the delegate brochure. So if you are down and you are a delegate, you can go through that and kind of plot who you need to talk to and what you need to do. We try and work with a lot of agents, like I said, with agency showcases. So if you're making a type of music and you know that it kind of fits in line with what Coda are doing or ITB, it would probably be a good idea to get down to their showcases, try and put some faces to names, which I think is the hardest thing to try and do in the music industry. I think a lot of booking agents especially are kind of difficult people to sort of identify sometimes.
Yep, definitely. And I've seen some of the convention stuff's open to non-delegates this year as well. Would you encourage people to try and go along to that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's really, really useful. There's a DIY day that we do, and that's kind of purely focused on emerging talent. So yeah, definitely go along to that. And then there's some other sort of top line stuff, which is a bit more industry heavy, I guess.
Yep, cool. So what kind of take up do artists generally get for things like merch when they're down there? How should you judge how much they take down with you?
I mean, generally you won't sell much merch at these festivals. I mean, from my experience, hardly anybody's even selling merch, really, usually.
Yeah, I don't think there's much. And also, it's not your own show in some respects. I think, like you said about managing expectations, you have to go into it as you're playing for 30 minutes, and you probably won't get a sound check, and you won't, you barely get a line check, and everything could be quite rushed. But you're playing to a room full of, a lot of music industry people, and they'll be able to see the potential or what you're trying to achieve without a sound check and stuff. So, but I mean, it's not your own show, so I wouldn't go down with loads of CDs and T-shirts and stuff, and you just get a bit annoyed, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And what about, so rather than artist prep work, what about labels and managers and stuff like that going down? What kind of prep stuff should they be doing?
Well, you could listen to all the bands on the website. That's a good start. So yeah, just go through them really. If you're a label and you're looking to sign something, that tool that filters things out is really beneficial and really good.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's going through the list of the bands and seeing and trying to plot your day. Try and get out and see as many things as you possibly can, because, if you manage your time properly and plan in advance, you could probably see 10 or more bands a day,
Definitely. And what about things like the networking receptions? Like if you're going down as a manager or a label, are you made aware of what's going on, and how do you get invited to these as well?
Anybody with a delegate pass can go to all of the delegate drinks and receptions and stuff, and they're all listed in the delegate brochure that you'll have, and you'll get. And like I said, there's normally about 3 or 4 a day. It's chock-a-block, but they'll range from like I don't know, like export offices from Luxembourg or Poland, and they'll have their own parties. So maybe that's not going to be beneficial unless you're looking to work with a band from Luxembourg or Poland. But then there's other things that the PRS do, or other labels, or like people like label showcases as well, that they're good to go down to. So,
is there any kind of like private receptions that in advance you can get invited to? And
there's always going to be somewhere you can't get into, but that's just the nature of life, though, isn't it? There's always going to be a locked room that you're going to be a bit paranoid about what's behind and why you're missing out. But I think a lot of business is done at the networking events, for sure, but I think just the nature of people being people, you'll find that they gravitate towards pubs as well, and that's why I say it's important to go down a year before you're planning on going down, so you can identify where those sort of places to hang out are as well. But yeah, there aren't really any sort of invite only. I guess the only ones that are invite only are things if an agency is doing their own secret party, but and then they want to make sure that it's just for their artists and managers. But you could try and contact them. But yeah, I mean, they're few and far between, if I'm honest. Like most of the things you can get access to with the delegate pass, which is why it's kind of really good to get.
Cool. And what about things like the delegate directory and, arranging meetings before you go? Did you do much of that, Jamie?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the two times I've had showcasing bands, a lot of things were business was happening behind the scenes anyway, so it was a case of, are you going to be at Great Escape? Fantastic, I'll meet you there. When I've been down, when I've had acts at the Alternative Escape, and I've also got a delegate pass for the actual festival, then I've had to actually really scroll through and then try and target people more. I think when you've got a showcasing act, more often than not, there's a lot of things going on, and it's a handy place to follow up with people and press the flesh, I suppose.
I'd say also after your show, like once you've come off stage, make yourself available. Like that's really important. I think sometimes bands like they play and then they're like head down, like pack the guitar up and then wander off backstage. But get straight into the crowd because you don't know who's there and they might want to come up to you. So just make yourself available. That's kind of like a key thing. And then you'll find that people will just come to you if they're into your music, whether it's sync people or managers or agents or anybody else.
And you mentioned the Alternative Escape there. Do you just want to give a brief overview of what that's like and what the difference between that and the Great Escape is?
Yeah, so the Alternative Escape isn't programmed by myself, but it's definitely part of the festival. It's generally for artists that maybe aren't at a point where they're going to play the Great Escape, where they're not quite ready in some respects. It's also there's kind of individual promoters or people that put those parties and showcases on. And you don't need a delegate pass or a wristband to go in to those events. And yeah, it's an important part of the festival for sure. It's kind of like a good breeding ground for the festival itself. Yeah, and it's really beneficial. And there's normally some exciting stuff on there that is at a really, really early stage. And a lot of the time, things go from the Artscape onto the core program.
Cool. So we've went through all the kind of stuff that you can do to prep before you go down. So once you're there, what's expected from the showcasing artists?
A good show.
Yeah?
Yeah, you better put on a good show.
What about from your point of view, Jamie? What would you expect as a manager from bands you are taking down?
I mean, exactly that. I mean, you've got to make sure your show's good. You've got to make sure you're well prepared. You don't want to turn up unrehearsed. You've got half an hour to try and impress people who've perhaps never even heard of the band or they're seeing the band for the first time. So you've got to make sure the show's ready, yeah.
And are there any additional platforms or gigs the Great Escape can offer artists once they're down?
Yeah, so we try and offer artists 2 shows, and that normally takes the form of a day show, so between 12 and 4, and then one in the evening, which could be anything between 7 and 2 in the morning. So you have 2 opportunities to get people to your showcase and to watch you. Outside of that, yeah, I mean, you could come down and perform on the Alternative Escape as well. That's always encouraged. Or I think some bands, I probably will regret saying this, but yeah, I mean, if you wanted to organise something yourself, like there's some people have done like house parties and stuff that's kind of created a buzz for their artist, and then maybe reached out and did something with like a magazine or a blog in your hometown, like you all come down together and then you do an impromptu gig, or you take over a house and do a party in a garden, and then you're almost creating your own buzz and not waiting for other people to write about you. So that would be a good thing. If you do that next year, though, don't say I told you to do that.
And a bit more practical question, but how can you do the Great Escape on the cheap? Have any of you got any insights or tips if you're skinting and heading down?
I do try and put the artists that we book from Scotland, I do try and give them their 2 shows in the same day, so they don't have to pay for accommodation. So I do try and think about things to try and keep the cost down. There's nothing worse than when you put a show on the Thursday and then the second show's on the Saturday, and then you've got to spend loads of money on accommodation and food and stuff. So yeah, I mean that's one thing that you could request, I guess.
Yep. Have you got any tips on how to do it on the cheap, Jamie?
No, I've not been very successful on that front, to be honest.
Neither have I.
Try and share accommodation with people. You know, Airbnb can be quite good. Booking in advance helps. Certainly, if your delegate pass is a lot cheaper, I think, when you first announce them. Yeah. But you generally accommodation and food and things like that, and drink. Usually, you're out till quite late in the morning. Try not to go to the Queen's Hotel to 6 o'clock. It probably helps.
Yeah.
But you were saying a lot of the food and drinking stuff you can get at the parties and stuff for free.
I was amazed. I looked at that the other day. But yeah, there's normally about, if you went in at the top end and bought the delegate pass, but like you say, when they first go on sale, they are a lot more affordable. I think it goes on sale at about £120 or 100 quid, which isn't that expensive considering it's, you know, you're going to get a lot of business and a lot of connections, and it's going to be massively beneficial. But yeah, there's a lot of food and alcohol that you can get for free. That's included, sorry.
Yeah, good to know. So, yeah, like I was saying, obviously the first year I went down, I volunteered and then started working the following 2. Have you got any advice in terms of how you get into volunteering or what you can do to make sure that when you volunteer, you've got a good chance of getting employed after that?
Yeah, the volunteering is really good and really, really beneficial. Like with anything, if you're trying to get involved in the music industry, it's good to try and get to your local venue and get to know the local music scene. And that's kind of the same at the Great Escape. So if you are volunteering and you're a venue rep, then you do get to meet a lot of the bands, a lot of the managers, and then obviously in turn a lot of the people that they're working with. And you can apply to do that online, I think. And then we select them. It's also, if you can get somebody to give you like a recommendation as well, that's always beneficial. So someone can sort of vouch that you're a good egg, then that's definitely helpful.
Definitely. Cool. So following the Great Escape, what are the key things you need to do to follow up on everything that all the opportunities that you've had whilst there?
Well, I mean, obviously, you want to reach back out to people. You probably find that you're coming away with, like a pocket full of business cards. Maybe give it a week and start following up with people that you've met and seeing what they thought of your band. If you missed them, you just got to try and keep in touch with these people, make sure, and perhaps arrange to meet them in London, or if you're going to America or whatever, and just try and keep building your contact list.
Yeah, I think relationships are really important, and maintaining relationships is kind of key. So. Yeah, but then also it's always a fine balance. You don't want to become that needy guy that always emails or like messages people on Facebook chat, which I get quite a lot. So yeah, it's a fine balance of kind of remaining professional, but also getting your point across and being clear and finding out and trying to get feedback.
And has any research been done on the impact of showcasing the Great Escape?
Yeah, we did a really big presentation, but it's really beneficial. We had somebody do it last year and the year before, but they went into such fine detail about how much money is spent at the Great Escape and then spent in the local economy and And I think we touched on a few of the numbers there, how much money is generated off the back of the Great Escape, and it was kind of in the millions. So it is definitely beneficial for the music industry and the local economy, and in turn, I guess, new artists as well, obviously.
Yeah, so what about the artists themselves, like in terms of like secondary income, so from increased streams, increased sales?
Yeah.
Have you done research on that kind of thing?
Definitely, when we go out of our first announcement, the amount of kind of festival bookers that I talk to from around Europe and stuff are looking to see what's performing at the Great Escape. It's almost, in some respects, kind of like a badge of approval. So I think a lot of artists, a lot of festival bookers will look at what's been booked, go through the list, and then in turn book for their festival, because we have such a strong hit rate over the years. Obviously, we touched on who's performed over the years, that yeah, we're in a fortunate position where people kind of take our lead in some respects. So yeah, I would imagine you'd get future bookings off the back of it. If you have a clear idea of what you want to do as well, like if you're looking to increase your syncs or to get a sync on Made in Chelsea or whatever it is, like, you know, identify those people, hunt them down, and then follow up. So yeah.
Did you see an impact, Jamie, when you took Man and Moon down last year or the Snakeheads a couple of years ago? So yeah, following the event?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with Man and Moon last year, we got a couple of UK festivals and a European festival all off the back of showcasing at the Great Escape. And exactly as Adam says, when we came off stage, we were approached by festival bookers, you know, standing side the stage, or, you know, people were approaching us, you know, quite readily. And we ended up playing at a festival in Bilbao, which was fantastic. Yeah, so it's exactly right. Festival bookers do look to the Great Escape to find out what is hot, what's new, coming out of the UK or otherwise, and they use that as a platform to book their own festivals.
That's great. So obviously this year's festival is taking place next month. If we look forward to 2018, is there any kind of trends you're seeing in the industry just now, especially in the live scene, that artists could benefit from that knowledge and capitalise on to make them have a higher chance of showcasing next year?
What music trends? Yeah, I mean, there's a massive resurgence of guitar music, which is good, and maybe, you know, punk music in some respects. I mean, obviously, grime and urban music is really prevalent at the moment, and I think will definitely be around a lot longer and be more interwoven into festivals as opposed to maybe booked tokenistically. I think there's probably going to be quite a lot of Afrobeat music, like artists like J Hus coming through and stuff like that. That'll cross over and break into the mainstream. But yeah, I think we started off as predominantly an indie band music festival, and we've diversified, and I think that's just because people listen to a lot of different music nowadays. It's so readily available via platforms like, you know, Spotify and all the other streaming services, and that people get into a lot more. So yeah, I mean, I think the key thing is that if you're in a band, to just, you know, keep writing music, keep practicing, keep rehearsing, and keep plugging away, and try and get involved in your local music scene, and that's the foundation of anything that you're going to do, regardless of what's in vogue at the moment.
Cool, that's great. I'd like to open it up to questions from the floor now, if anyone has any.
It was just a little bit, you did touch upon it, but the differences for the artists that are showcasing alternative escape to the official showcases. Like, for example, do alternative escape artists, do they get access like delegate pass type?
No, they don't. Yeah, so the alternative escape, I think we only do, I don't know, it must be somewhere between 10 showcases, I think, over the weekend, and they're programmed by promoters that we supply the venue and we run the event for them, but they kind of have to pay for the hire of the building and the production and stuff. And then if they want to pay the artist, they can. But there's no pass involved with that. But it is published and promoted within the Great Escape. So you do get publicity, and featured in the brochure. I don't think you get featured on the website. So yeah, but it's definitely worthwhile doing for sure. But there isn't a pass involved, no.
Cool. Any other questions? Richard?
So I know you have to apply through Musical.ly.
Yep.
Do you place a lot of importance on your profile on Musical.ly? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important to have that clear. I mean, obviously, the good thing about applying via Musical.ly is it's kind of giving you all the boxes there, so you don't forget to put your link to music, which happens quite a lot. Or, you know, you can only put so many words for your biog, which, yeah, I mean, it's kind of common sense, really, in some respects. You don't realistic. We have so many bands apply, and even if we only had one band apply and they supplied 5 pages of their bio, we probably wouldn't read it. So keep everything top line. Just put one picture that represents the band and then a link to some music. In some respects, like the music link, less is more. Like if you've only got one good song, just put that one good song up there. I don't need to hear the first album or the second album. Like, you know, just put the clearest recording and the best songs up there.
That's great. Any other questions? Yeah, just there.
It's quite a general question, but as someone who's going down as a volunteer, how much opportunity is there to sort of participate and network along with sort of delegate people?
If you're volunteering, you'll be very busy, obviously, but the people that you're meeting, like I said, you should get involved in your local music scene and work in your local venue. I used to work on the door of a music venue, and the people that you meet just coming through the door, just ticking off the guest list, you know, you strike up conversations with them. You're like, oh, you're so-and-so. So in turn, that is your own networking. If you're doing the delegate registration and you're taking the photos of everybody in the music industry, there's your 1 minute, you know, there's your one-on-one with Steve Strange or whoever it is. Probably not Steve Strange, but yeah, so, you know, whoever it is, that's your time to shine. I think you obviously get some downtime where you can go and watch gigs, and then that would be a good opportunity to network. I think trying to get involved in the official networking programs and stuff probably would be unrealistic. But like I said, if you're positioned in the right place and you're kind of aware of who you want to meet and what they look like, I mean, everybody's got a name badge on, so that's kind of a help. Then you should meet some people for sure. Or just talk to the people that actually work at the Great Escape. They're a good people. I mean, if you're volunteering and you see me, just have a chat to me and say, oh, you know, what can I do, or who can I meet? And then 9 times out of 10, there'll be loads of people around you that you didn't even know that could help you out. So yeah.
Yeah, just add that as well to give you context. Obviously, with me volunteering, being Scottish and volunteering at a festival in Brighton does you a lot of good as well. The accent stand out, you know, it's a total pain in the arse, like having to speak on the radio and no one be able to understand you, but it really, really made me stand out, and I think that really, really worked in my favour in terms of being offered, you know, I got offered a venue rep job the next year and stuff, and also through that as well, I ended up working at festivals like Bestival and the Beat Herder and stuff as well, so all of you who are interested in volunteering, I definitely encourage you to do so. It's definitely good to get out of Scotland and try and network with people in other areas.
But the Great Escape is, the Great Escape is owned by Mama, and we run Wilderness, Citadel, and you know, a few other festivals, and then in turn we're owned by Live Nation, who do Reading and Leeds, Latitude and stuff. So if you make a good impression by just working really hard, then that's your networking there. Do you know what I mean? If you just kept your head down and did your job and worked really hard, and you're friendly and professional, then you don't need to meet anybody else. You're already working with them. You're already part of the team.
Cool, so we've got time for a couple more questions. Anyone have any else? Derek? Just
out of interest, I write about new music as a journalist for a national newspaper. Is there such a thing as like a media accreditation for the Great Escape?
You're off. This is the second time you've tried to angle for a free ticket now.
That's kind of.
I've seen through this. Yeah, yeah, there is, but yeah, we have to read the words that you write first to see if they're any good.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I don't. I'm joking. I don't actually deal with it, but yeah, we do have a PR department, and obviously we do have an allocation of tickets for journalists and publications. That would be a really good way to get in, for sure. Yeah, I can put you in touch with those people if you want.
Yeah, thanks.
Any more questions? Yep, Alina. It's funny how you just know everyone's name here, isn't it?
Just from like a band's perspective, like how many of all the bands you book, like is it mostly kind of bands coming from like agents and managers you already know, or like how many bands that you don't actually Like,
How many
you're not-
bands don't have representation?
Yeah, just like bands you've not really heard of before, and you just hear their track and go, "That's cool," and you know.
Yeah, it's not. I'm trying to think. We did count up how many bands we booked by an agent, by all the agents. I think, I don't know. It must be around about. I mean, we have 450 artists perform, and then I think out of that, maybe 150 are booked via booking agents. I guess maybe around about that. So yeah, I mean, it's important to have representation in some respects, obviously, because it kind of shows that there's a plot and a plan and a sort of mission to achieve. But it's not the be all and end all. But it is important to have, like I said, somebody in the team that isn't in the band, if that makes sense. But, you know, if you've got stuff going on in your home territory or your hometown or your city, and the chances are that you'll be on our radar for sure. That's yeah, and that will either come via the local promoters that are booking your shows, or the sort of, you know, export offices or trade bodies that we talk to. So yeah, but it's I would say it's probably about 150 maybe. Maybe that's a bit low.
Cool. Any more questions? Definitely got time for one or two more. Yep.
For volunteering at The Great Escape, what kind of attributes are you looking for in a volunteer?
I mean, just professional people that have got a passion for music. I think you get found out really quickly if you don't have a passion for music, because you're out a lot and it's late hours and it's hard work, and if you're not interested in live music, then you probably shouldn't be volunteering. But yeah, it is quite hard work. Yeah, I mean, just people that are professional, I guess. Yeah, we're not into muscles or looks or clothes. Yeah, just someone that's really passionate about music and that's kind of got a head on their shoulders, really, that doesn't need too much babysitting and guidance, that isn't going to cause trouble. Do you look like you're going to cause trouble?
No.
Yeah, one thing I add to that as well is having been a venue rep, volunteers are so important, because it is insanely full on. Like 16 hours a day I was doing for the 3 days, and you do get tired. It is really stressful. Everyone's scheduled in so tightly that there's no time for anything to run over. So you really rely on your volunteers to support you and make sure that everything goes to plan. So if you can really, be that kind of support for your venue rep, it will go a long way, and hopefully them recommending you. So, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just ask, is there a place where I can find a list of the trade partners and local affiliates?
Yeah, that's all on the website. Yeah, you shouldn't have to get into the delegate directory for that. That should just be on the website. Yeah, that'll all be there. What is it that you wanted to find out? Just the media partners and everybody that we work with. Yeah, we do. I think we have a logos page, which is filled with logos.
That's great. Thank you.
Cool. One last question. Anyone? Yep.
See, in terms of like booking artists and bands, do you make a point of looking up and down the country, or is it just kind of who's making waves in London? Or
it's definitely not London-centric, because the event's in Brighton, so that's one thing that you don't want to piss off the locals. So it's really important that we look into each territory, each sort of market, and spot the bands that are making waves. But no, it's definitely not just bands from London that get booked. I mean, there probably is quite a high proportion, but that's just because we're based in, just in close proximity to London. Like there's probably a lot of bands from Liverpool that play Liverpool Sound City or, whatever. But I try and so we book 450 bands each year. That's kind of the number that we always have, and that's the number that we try and aim for. And then we kind of work on looking at each country and trying to get a set number, or I have a rough idea of how many bands that I'm going to book from each territory, just because you have to kind of dissect it, just because it's such a vast festival to book. You kind of need to understand, you need to understand where you're going to go with those bands. So yeah, I mean, we normally have around about 10 to 15 bands from Scotland perform on the festival each year, if that's what you're looking at, and that's made up of bands that are on their second album and coming back to the festival, and that's made up of really new bands that don't have any representation, and then bands that have maybe just been taken on. So yeah.
Cool, so that's us out of time. So I just want to say thanks to Adam and Jamie, and yeah, hope you all enjoy the rest of the day. Come and say hi to us at some point later on. Thanks for listening.